Brian. Great way to end the show.
The Upperman Report, weekday nights at 9 on 1400 KSHP North Las Vegas. Online at kshp.com.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend, and thank you for joining us. It is Pushing the Limits time. We got a lot to get to today, a lot to talk about. By the way, we're broadcasting everywhere on every social media platform, video and audio, including YouTube, including TikTok. Also broadcasting live on my Twitter page, which is Pushing Limits LV, on our Facebook fan page, which is PTL Vegas, and the YouTube page, PTL Vegas. As I mentioned, we got a lot to get to and a lot to talk about today. What has taken place in Brazil is a travesty, and it's amazing how it echoes almost identically what happened here in the insurrection here in Washington, D.C. a few years ago. What's happened in Brazil is really despicable. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get the President Joe Biden's response to it as well. We're also going to talk about the NFL weekend and the games that were not very entertaining, including the Raiders game, how the Chiefs just came to town and just ran the Raiders over. But coming up at the bottom of the hour, a story that I definitely want to talk about. It makes, in my opinion anyway, it makes the Raiders look really foolish. And that is the fact that they are kicking fans out for holding up signs with their opinions, holding up signs that say, you know, bench Josh McDaniels, fire Josh McDaniels. I have a serious problem with this, so we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about the Raiders season as a whole. Goalie Scott Culbertson from Silver and Black today will be joining us in hour number 2 to talk about that. I figured, you know, of course it's Monday, and what better person to have on than to talk about all these very important issues, whether it's the sports world or the political world. Chris Wynn, they call him C-Win. He's joining us in the studio now. Chris, how was your weekend?
It was great, Brian. Good to join you. Of course, little rough sledding for most of the Vegas sports teams this weekend, except for obviously the UNLV Runner Rebels. But as you talked about, many more stories not having to do with sports that we're going to be able to focus on today. And of course, that is the exportation, Mr. Shapiro, of fascism, it appears, by some individuals here in the United States of America. A very disturbing story coming out of Brazil and the folks that support Bolsonaro down there, and how it does mirror a lot of what we saw transpire just a little bit over a year ago here in Washington, D.C., with respect to the attempted insurrection. So very disturbing story there. And among a lot of other things we're going to be able to discuss today on the Monday.
Yeah, so this really echoes the insurrection, the January 6th insurrection here in this country. Listen, whether Donald Trump had incited the insurrection here, whether this happens or not in Brazil, I would say maybe. But, you know, we've seen these types of things happen throughout the world, but usually never in this country. But what happened in Brazil is a travesty. I want to read to you what Joe Biden said over the weekend about this, because this is what leadership looks like. Joe Biden immediately said, quote, "I condemn the assault on democracy and on the peaceful transfer of power in Brazil. Brazil's democratic institutions have our full support, and the will of the Brazilian people must not be undermined. I look forward to continuing to work with Lula Official," which is his official, you know, of course, Twitter account. Hey, Chris, what do you think Donald Trump said on Truth Social about this?
I think that it is disturbing, to say the least, Brian, that officials from the person who was actually running, I'm talking about Bolsonaro, who, you know, that actually met with him in Mar-a-Lago. I think that's absolutely ridiculous and preposterous and has led to this. But there's no question that there is a direct tie to the former president of the United States and people around him, and to what has transpired in Brazil, down in Brasilia, in the last 24 to 48 hours. It's absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous that we're talking about exporting fascism in the United States of America. Is beyond ridiculous to me.
It's also ridiculous that people still undermine what took place on January 6th, that there are people in this country that still say it wasn't an insurrection. There are still people in this country that make ridiculous claims when you have people that were there for one reason and one reason only. I'm talking about the January 6th insurrection right now. They wanted to overthrow the government They wanted to try to ensure for themselves that Donald Trump would remain in power. That is exactly what an insurrection is, trying to overthrow the government in this case. People died that day. It wasn't just the woman that was shot inside the chambers. A woman was also trampled and died that day. A police officer died the next day. Brian Slitnick, I believe his name was.
Dozens were injured.
Yes, 140 officers were sent to the hospital, Chris.
No question.
Yes.
It was a dark day in America, Brian. And so the point you just made regarding, you just said there's people out there that think it wasn't a big deal, and that have a belief and understanding of January 6th in a way that's not reality. And to those people, I say you're idiots and you're a disgrace.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I know it's Monday. You know me on Mondays. I come in here my one day a week. I get kind of aggravated, and that's fine. But I mean, this is just so beyond disheartening.
And by the way,
what
friend. Side of the aisle is to blame for what took place in Brazil?
Not Democrats.
Wasn't liberals.
Not Democrats. Not lefties.
No, wasn't lefties. Wasn't Democrats. Why is it that why is it?
And not even some right wingers either. Not even some Republicans.
Yeah.
But just a faction of the party, MAGA. MAGA. That's what we're talking about, Brian.
We are talking about MAGA. Yeah, I agree. This is MAGA. And the same types of people, Chris, in the United States that defend what took place on January 6th, or they're silent, or they don't want to get down to the truth and they don't want to hold anybody responsible, are some of the same people on social media that are praising what took place in Brazil. It is so despicable and it is so disgusting. Okay. Democracy is all we have, right? The will of the voters. And the Kari Lakes of the world. And there are plenty of people that support Kari Lake, which is mesmerizing to me. And those types of people some of them are praising on social media what took place in Brazil.
And you're referring to, Brian, obviously, is Steve Bannon and his ilk. Because Steve Bannon is someone that has come out.
Correct.
And talked about this in a positive way, as if it's a positive reflection and a positive thing that has happened. Utterly and entirely ridiculous. That he takes that position, and you call yourself an American, you call yourself a patriot. Get the what out of here with that crap. I mean, it's Steve Bannon, yes, and it's others, that have been involved with the government or who have been in a position of leadership. Let's put it that way, or have had have been some type of a public servant.
Now, I want to know,
in some way, shape, or form.
There are people out there that maybe had different reactions when they heard of what took place in Brazil. I want to open up the phone lines, and I want to know, what was your first reaction when you saw the images of what took place in Brazil over the weekend? Was it January 6th? Were you thinking about Donald Trump, or were you saying to yourself, this is not a big deal? I'll open up the phone lines for anybody that agrees or disagrees with me right now. The number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, now is the time to call in if you want to be a part of the program. We'll certainly be taking calls throughout the show, but now is the time. 702-221-SAVE, even though I can't save you any money or grief. 702-221-7283. That's 702-221-7283 if you'd like to be a part of the program. It seems like there is still a population in society, Chris, that does not think January 6th is a big deal. They didn't think that it was a big deal then, and they don't think that it's a big deal now. There's also a part of the population, luckily a small part of the population, that actually endorses what took place in Brazil. Now, I am happy that Joe Biden came out immediately. He wasn't sitting on his ass for 6 hours looking at the television. Joe Biden immediately put out a statement. The White House immediately put out a statement, because that's what leadership looks like. You can disagree with Joe Biden on policy until the cows come home. I don't agree with everything about Joe Biden. I really don't. But you can't argue the fact that Joe Biden is a decent human being with something called empathy, something that Donald Trump never had. And sadly, many of his supporters don't have. Many of the MAGAs out there, in my personal opinion, don't have empathy either. I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and they would still vote for me. Those are the people I'm talking about. Joe Biden does have something called empathy. He does. And I appreciate his immediate statement in condemning what took place. I can tell you right now, if we had anything close to an insurrection, Joe Biden would immediately take action. He would immediately call for help. He would immediately do the things that you would expect from a leader to do. as would most people in Washington, I believe, even Republicans. I think most people would take action. But Donald Trump didn't do that on January 6th. Now, the argument is, does this happen in Brazil, if not for what took place here January 6th? For sure, obviously, I don't know the answer to that question, Chris, but I can tell you that it certainly didn't help. It certainly gave some people in Brazil some ideas, and we've had other types of insurrections across the world that have happened over time. Where are Donald Trump's statements about what took place in Brazil? Why is he not condemning the violence? Where are his comments? They're non-existent because he knows that this is very, very similar to what took place here in this country. Again, the number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283.
A couple of things, Brian. Look, you talked about how there's people out there that seem like they think that January 6th is a big deal. No, there's people out there that actually believe that January 6th wasn't a big deal. It's not a seem thing. There are actually people out there that believe that. Secondly, you just talked about would have the situation in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, obviously, have happened if not for January 6th. We don't have to pussyfoot around this. Absolutely not. It wouldn't have happened.
Probably
Absolutely not. I just talked about at the top of the show about officials from this opponent's, from his, incoming campaign meeting with Donald Trump and Trump officials here in the United States after January 6th, agreeing with what went down, looking to get ideas regarding how to go about doing something like January 6th. There is a fundamental misunderstanding among MAGA out there and right-wingers as to what a constitutional republic is and how free and fair elections should be. And what gets us so infuriated, those of us on the left and those of us out there, and even independents like yourself, other and people that are on the right now that are disowning this, right, and that are criticizing this, rightfully so. What gets us upset is they do it under the guise of their being patriots. They do it under the guise of all of us are the ones that are un-American, and all of us are the ones that are doing the wrong thing, and all of us are the ones that that should be on board with what happened on January 6th. That's why my amp level is up to 1,000 right now in the studio.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of us get upset because they're coming at it from an approach that they're the patriots. They're the ones that care about America. They're the ones that care about elections. Yet you're doing everything opposite of what you should be doing regarding this situation. And it absolutely gets everybody fired up, including myself.
So there are some people, it's interesting. I was getting into a debate with somebody over the weekend, and that person who ran for office here, who by the way, is a Trump supporter who wears Donald Trump knee pads, says to me, Brian, you have TDS. Now that, for those of you that don't know what that is, they call that, those on the right call that Trump derangement syndrome. My initial response was, you have TFS.
It's a throwaway line. It's lame.
My initial response to it was, you have TFS, Trump fellatio syndrome. That was my initial response. And I said, if you don't like Joe Biden's policies, let's have that conversation. If you think there needs to be more security at the border, for example, and we can talk about the border, that's a fair conversation to have. If you want to talk about inflation, fair conversation to have. I think that's a very fair conversation to have. But you cannot convince me and tell me that Donald Trump was good for the moral high ground of this country, that he didn't incite violence, and that Donald Trump was only out for one person, Donald Trump. He was not out for you, the American people. My argument is Joe Biden is a decent person. We know Hunter Biden, kind of a screw up, right? A drug addicted guy, but he's also not a politician. I'm talking about the politicians. I'm not talking about the families. If you want to get into that, Beau Biden, a hero who risked his life for this country, and Joe Biden.
Well, don't get us started on the Trump kids too. I mean,
yeah. Don't even get. I agree. Don't even get me started with Uday and Kusei, also known as Eric and Donald Trump Jr. The bottom line here is I'm trying to focus, and I don't spend too much time talking about the Trump family. I'm talking about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a decent human being with empathy. When we have these types of situations that happen throughout the world, Joe Biden is the first person to talk about it. When he talks about the vaccines and when he talks about COVID, he wants to save lives. He doesn't make press conferences all about himself. He makes it about the American people. And his tweet today in talking about what took place in Brazil was not about him. it was about democracy and an attack on democracy, even though this time it wasn't, luckily, in this country. That's what Joe Biden is about. He's not perfect. In fact, I don't even want Joe Biden, Chris, to run in 2024. I think there are better candidates out there, not Kamala Harris. I don't want her to run either. But I think there are other people out there that are Democrats, and I'm going to name you one right now, Hakeem Jeffries. I'm going to tell you one thing, and we're going to get into this right now.
Okay.
McCarthy was sworn in, as you know, as the House Speaker, another bumbling fool, and somebody who, again, kissed Donald Trump's butt to try to get this power. I want to tell you what leader. Now, listen, I'm not even a Nancy Pelosi person. I don't think she was a great House Speaker, but I'm going to show you what leadership looks like and something called the peaceful transfer of power. This is Nancy Pelosi on the House floor the other day. Have a listen to this. There you have it. A simple transfer of power where Nancy Pelosi, while getting a standing ovation, introduces Hakeem Jeffries. So to my Republican friends out there, that is what the peaceful transfer of power looks like. They couldn't even get McCarthy in there without how many votes? 17?
Well, we can go down this road if you want, Brian. It's a transition to a different topic. Obviously, we're talking about the situation in Brazil, and then you want to talk about the debacle that was the last 4 days in Washington, D.C. with respect to the House of Representatives and the Speaker of the House vote. It is a deep dive that we can take, and we can go down a bunch of different directions. But I would concur with you. Yes, there's no question that when you're talking about the peaceful transfer of power, that's an important aspect. That is a constitutional republic. That is an important aspect of democracy that did not have smooth sailing back on January 6, 2021. It just did not. 2022. And so, 2020. The point being is that there's no question about it that there are individuals. There's a reason why at the top of the show I use this phrase, exporting fascism. That's what's happening. We used to be a shining, bright light on the hill, Brian, when it came to democracy around the world. We used to be a beacon of what it meant to have a constitutional republic and to promote democracy. Now, in 2022 and 23, we have public officials, individuals that used to be president or used to be used to be in the government, exporting fascism to other countries. Now that's our value system. Now we're promoting that. That's another big reason why I've been getting so loud here on your Monday.
And I want to add something else too. And I hear this all the time from righties that, they'll call into the show and they'll say, Brian, you're a liar. You're full of misinformation.
But never give you a lie that you say.
Hold on. Yeah,
never give you a lie
let me just finish. Okay. Yeah, I agree. But let me just make the point. What am I lying about? Where is my misinformation? Okay. Well, here's your opportunity to call into the show and call me out. If you think I'm uneducated, if you think I'm a liar, what have I said today that's a lie? I'm opening up the phone lines. Tell me. Here's your opportunity. 702-221-7283. I'm going to give out that number again so some of you MAGAs with your little fingers can write it down. 702-221-7283. There's a difference between an opinion and a lie. For example, here's an opinion. Okay. An opinion is Donald Trump was a great president. Okay. Well, I would disagree with you on that. And I have many reasons for that, but you're entitled to your opinion. That's an opinion. What's a lie? The vaccine has killed millions of people. People are just dropping dead every day from the vaccines. That's medical information. That's a lie. So for some of my Retrumplican friends out there, I'm trying to help you understand the difference. Now, I want to play you, open up the phone line 702-221-7283. I want to play you the fine line difference between Republicans and Democrats. This is Hakeem Jeffries, and this is him speaking on the House floor before he introduces Kevin McCarthy as the new House Speaker. Hakeem Jeffries clearly states the difference between 2023 Republicans and Democrats. Have a listen to this.
But I also want to make clear that we will never compromise our principles. House Democrats will always put American values over autocracy. benevolence over bigotry, the Constitution over the cult, democracy over demagogues, economic opportunity over extremism, freedom over fascism, governing over gaslighting, hopefulness over hatred, inclusion over isolation, justice over judicial overreach, knowledge over kangaroo courts, liberty over limitation, maturity over Mar-a-Lago, normalcy over negativity, opportunity over obstruction, people over politics, quality of life issues over QAnon, reason over racism, substance over slander, triumph over tyranny, understanding over ugliness, voting rights over voter suppression, working families over the well-connected, xenial over xenophobia, yes we can over you can't do it, and zealous representation over zero-sum confrontation. We will always do the right thing by the American people.
So there are very distinguished differences. It's funny because every Democrat voted for Hakeem Jeffries. They seem to be united. Why don't you talk to Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz and how they stretched this thing out? Now, why did they do it? Why did they do it? Well, very simply put, it's not just because maybe some of them have some personal issues with Kevin McCarthy. It's because they want to make a name for themselves. Lauren Boebert wants to appear on Sean Hannity. Matt Gaetz wants to appear on Newsmax or wherever the hell else he is if he's not on his Venmo account. They want to make names for themselves. It's the same reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene makes ridiculous statements and all these far righties say ridiculous and crazy things so they can get clicks, so they can remain in power, so they can remain famous within the alt-right, Republican Party. That's why they did this. They knew that McCarthy was still going to be the House Speaker. We had former presidential candidate Joe Walsh on the show Friday. He told us that this was going to happen. Eventually, McCarthy's going to get in anyway, but they do it for one reason and one reason only, just so they can make headlines, so they can get clicks and remain in power. These are the faces of the Republican Party, like it or not. Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Gymnasium Jordan, DUI Matt Gaetz. These are the faces of the Republican Party, like it or not. Now, I don't think every Republican feels this way. I certainly don't think every Republican is crazy or a lunatic. But those that I certainly just mentioned are, and there are some Democrats on the left that I don't like either. But I don't think they say things and do things to make headlines. I don't think Ocasio-Cortez says things to make headlines so she can be on television and make CNN appearances. This was an embarrassment not to America. This was an embarrassment to Republicans. And you saw the moment, Chris, in the House chambers when somebody had to be held back. Somebody it appeared like was going after Matt Gaetz, and somebody puts their hand over this guy's mouth and had to be held back. Are we all children? You are all elected officials. You're supposed to act like leaders and adults. And it made you guys look so silly and so bad. I hope Kevin McCarthy succeeds, but he's a politician who only plays politics, and I have no faith in him. I like Hakeem Jeffries, not because I'm a Democrat. I'm an independent. I'll open up the phone line, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 221-7283.
So the incident you're referring to, obviously, is Mike Rogers, I believe. He's a Michigan Republican House Representatives member who went after Matt Gaetz. It wasn't necessarily, an egregious thing, and he was being held back by a couple other Republican lawmakers. What transpired, Brian, over the early part of the weekend is unprecedented and that's a word that we used a lot last week. Well, we're going to use it with respect to this Speaker of the House vote. It hasn't happened. This has not gone down this way. There hasn't been. Usually it's a rubber stamp, Brian. Usually it is a foregone conclusion. Breaking news: if you have the majority in the House of Representatives, usually you'll vote a Speaker of the House in on the first ballot. It's happened for decades. It's happened for close. It hasn't. What happened this weekend has not happened in almost a century. It's going back to the early 1900s since it's happened. So that gives you an indication of how completely preposterous and ridiculous it was, how this all thing shook out. Now, moving forward, right now that Kevin McCarthy is the Speaker, to your point that you just made regarding Republicans on the far right, the ones that were holding this up, holding it hostage, right? There's somewhere around 20 Republicans that were essentially holding this up. You talk about Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're part of it, and Lauren Boebert as well too. They eventually all caved. Why'd they cave? Well, they caved because Kevin McCarthy has made deals with them. He has cut deals with them. As far as committee assignments and as far as how things are going to be run, there's all kinds of egregious and ridiculous things that are about to be put into place with respect to the House of Representatives that weren't before. A lot of things that were supposed to be safety barriers are not in place now because of what transpired and because Kevin McCarthy needed to get the votes. So and I'm going to circle back to what you're talking about regarding those far right winger Republicans. It's not about governing, right? They're not about governing. They're about self-promotion. Wow. Who else was about that too? Who else had that same kind of mantra? Oh yeah, it was the former president, Donald J. Trump. Same type of mantra. More about my self-promotion. It's more about me and about my job and about me being in the spotlight than it is about governing and about the American people and about doing the right thing for the American people. I'm not going to sit here and say that all Democrats and all the people on the left don't have a ham in them as well, too, and don't like to be on camera and don't like to be popular and don't like to be famous. I'm not going to say that. But it is egregious on the right now with respect to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and others, Gosar, and across the board.
Yeah.
Josh Hawley. Like, it is all about self-promotion. And as you pointed out, getting your name out there than it is about actually governing and getting things done for the American people.
And isn't it interesting, Chris, when you point out actual facts, like what took place on January 6th was violent. It was an embarrassment to the country. When you point out facts, some people on the far right want to immediately call you a liberal or a Democrat. You know, let me be very clear.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's frustrating, especially for somebody like me who votes on both sides of the aisle. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like the Clintons. No more than I like the Trumps, to be quite frank with you. And I didn't vote for either of them. And I don't believe in voting necessarily for the lesser of two evils. If I think someone... Now,
but in fairness, Brian, you have been hammering away at Republicans the last 3 or 4 years.
I know.
It's in fairness.
Let me finish
that out.
Let me finish. I regret not voting for Hillary Clinton because Donald Trump has been a disaster, in my opinion. But I didn't vote for Barack Obama or Mitt Romney. Why? Because I think they're both decent men. And I believe Mitt Romney would have been a decent president. Don't always agree with him on policy. Didn't always agree with Barack Obama, but I believe Barack Obama was a good husband, good father, and a decent man. And I still feel the same about Mitt Romney. And my feeling towards him, I think it was what? Was it 2012?
I could have lived with Mitt Romney as president. I could have absolutely lived with him.
My feeling towards Mitt Romney in 2012 stands tall now because he did what was right. He voted to impeach Donald Trump. He stood tall for what is right. I respected the hell out of John McCain. Didn't like Sarah Palin. But one of the best moments I think you'll agree with me on this, in political history, at least in my mind, was when that ignorant woman took the microphone at a John McCain rally when he was running for president. Yeah. And she called Barack Obama an Arab, I believe. John McCain immediately took that microphone and said, "No, ma'am. Barack Obama is a decent man. We just happen to disagree on policy. That's what a democracy looks like. That's what a decent man does." Would you ever see Donald Trump do something like that? If somebody made a statement about Joe Biden and said he had dementia or said, "Let's go, Brandon," do you think Donald Trump would? No, ma'am. Joe Biden is a decent man. We just disagree on policy. Absolutely not. Because Donald Trump is a bad human being.
Would he do that, Brian? Not only would he not do that, he would take it where he could take it further. He would promote it.
Yeah.
He would be someone who would be touting that nonsense.
Right.
He'd be somebody who would be going further. So it's not just about denouncing it. Like the late John McCain did. And I concur with you 100%. I'd have no problem if John McCain was president. I think Sarah Palin was ridiculous.
He's a war hero.
I thought that was ridiculous. And look, I was happy, obviously, as a Democrat, that Barack Obama ended up president. But I wouldn't have lost my you know what. I wouldn't have lost my you know what if Mitt Romney was president.
Right.
Just like I haven't lost my you know what because Joe Lombardo is the governor of Nevada.
Right.
It's not. It's
The
same,
sky's not
to
gonna
me,
fall.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Everything changed, Brian Shapiro, in 2016 with respect to Donald Trump.
Right.
And a big reason for it is not because of Donald Trump was a terrible president, not because it's because Donald Trump essentially, when he was elected, he showed he was not contrite whatsoever. He didn't want to reach across the aisle. He didn't want to reach out to Democrats. What did Donald Trump do? He gave everybody that didn't vote for him the middle finger. It's exactly what he did.
Yep.
And he did it for 4 years. And he continues to do it now.
Yep.
And he continues to tout that he won the election in 2020. To this day, it's 2023.
Yeah. Look, folks.
I mean, it's
very simple.
My point being, the discourse has completely changed since what you talked about.
Yeah.
With respect to the Mitt Romney versus Obama and the John McCain versus Barack Obama elections, and then of course Donald Trump and Hillary.
And it's amazing. I call out the behavior of Donald Trump or what took place on January 6th, and the immediate reaction by somebody who brown noses Donald Trump would say, "Oh, you must be paid by George Soros or the Democrats." Listen, if you make a statement like that, you don't know what you're talking about. It's very simple, folks. If you have problems or issues or complaints about what is going on at the border, or you have a problem with inflation or gas prices, the only way things are going to get better is if Republicans and Democrats are able to work together. That's the only way it is going to work. And if you disagree with me, then fine. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. We'll take some of your phone calls on the other side. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. Again, some people say, Brian, you're lying. You're misinformed. You're uneducated. All right. I'm giving you an opportunity right now to tell me why. What have I said that is a lie? What have I said that is misinformation? What have I said that you do not agree with and you think I'm misinformed? Now's your chance. I give everybody a platform and an opportunity to call in. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. And again, that number is 702-221-7283. We're going to take a break. We'll take some of your phone calls on the other side. And eventually we'll get to NFL fans being kicked out of games for having a sign that says fire Josh McDaniels. Wow, that's a little strange. We'll get to that. He's Chris Wynn. I'm Brian Shapiro. We'll be back in a couple minutes. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Salone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Colorado Ranch Boulevard, just off Premier Road, half a mile east of South Montecito, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. You can buy and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a snub? You can be a hero. Salone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment and work injuries, you name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
All right, here we are back at Pushing the Limits here on KSHP. So glad you could join us. We're going to be talking about some NFL fans getting kicked out of arenas for holding up innocent signs. We'll get to that, but I promised you would get right to our phone calls at 702-221-7283. Why don't we start off with Kramer? Hello, Kramer.
How you doing, guys?
What's up, man?
Well, I was just hearing you talk, and it's amazing to me how we've got a situation in this country where we've got a number of people that have decided that if you voted for a specific person, then you don't have any rights anymore. And I think that that's distressing in our country.
Okay, so go further. What do you mean? If you vote for a specific person, you don't have rights anymore. That's kind of a generic statement. I'm confused. Help me out.
Well, it shouldn't be confusing at all. I mean, I just heard what you were saying about Trump supporters and so on. And
Did I say?
Wait a minute, time out. It's not confusing, Brian. It doesn't make any sense what you're saying. Everybody in America there's not different rights for whoever you voted for. That doesn't.
Okay, so hold on.
That statement makes.
So
no
that was
sense.
my statement. So, sir, never did I say that if you voted for Donald Trump, you don't have any rights. Where did you hear me say that, sir? With all due respect.
Well, I'm talking about a generic overarching. Here's the trickle down effect.
Okay, so now you're not blaming. So now you're not saying it's me, right?
No, I didn't say you. I didn't say you.
Okay, so explain to me a situation. Okay, so help. Okay, fair enough, sir. So help me out, Kramer. Explain to me a situation where somebody on the left says, well, you voted for Donald Trump, so you don't deserve any rights. Be specific and give me an example.
I'll be very specific.
Sure.
So I voted for Trump.
Okay.
I didn't take the vaccine.
Okay.
And so therefore, I lose my right to go for a time to go into restaurants in New York City. I lost my right to be able to travel across this country. I lost my right to be employed freely. There's a number of different things where I lost my right in this country because of voting for Trump.
No,
Okay,
it wasn't
so-
because you voted for Trump. No,
Okay.
it was not because you voted for Trump. It's because there were mandates put in place
Okay.
because of the COVID-19
Right.
virus.
Chris,
It has
hang on.
nothing to do
Okay,
with
so
whether you voted
Chris,
or
hang on.
not.
Okay, so hold on. Let me just respond.
What is
Chris,
not
hold on.
patriotic about what I
Chris,
just said?
Okay, I agree with you, Chris, but let me just
Okay,
respond.
exactly.
Let me
yeah.
respond to him. Okay, so, sir, those rules also applied to people who voted for Joe Biden. Those rules also applied, and it had no matter of difference whether you voted on the right or the left. So what are you talking about? Those,
You did because
so there was a lot. Hold on. So you're hold on. I'm gonna hold on. So you're telling me that there were laws put in place when it came to the vaccines and when it came to COVID only if you voted for Donald Trump? Sir, you're absolutely wrong.
I am wrong.
So tell me how. So give me another example.
Or you're not right, or you're wrong.
You don't need to yell. I'm
Well,
not yelling
it's
at you.
okay. Well, sir, what you're saying, I'm going to say this.
Take it down a notch.
Okay,
Look,
look,
we're passionate people. If you're
Okay.
going to say something crazy, we're gonna
So-
call you out on it,
so,
my friend.
sir,
Yeah.
sir, I'm happy to have this conversation with you. The reason why I
Okay,
get
let me walk you through it.
okay, well,
Then let me
before
walk you through it.
okay,
Stop talking and let me walk
bottom
you
down,
through it.
bottom down.
so
Sir,
let
here's
me walk
the
us through
Chris. Hang on,
your insanity.
hang on,
Is that what you're
hang on, Chris. Sir, let me explain to you how this works. I'm happy to give you an opportunity. This is not your show. I will talk when I want to talk, and then I will give you an opportunity to respond. You don't run this show. It's my show, not yours. Number two, I almost died of COVID 2 years ago. And because of people like you that say things that are not true about COVID, say things that are not true about the vaccines, and then claim because you're a Trump supporter, you're treated differently when it comes to the law of the land as opposed to somebody who's a Democrat, is absurd. So don't tell me how to run my show. If I would like to raise my voice because I'm a passionate person, I will do so whether you like it or not. Understood?
Let me be real clear here about where there's a difference in the law right now.
Please lower your voice.
Let me
You're,
be
you're
real
yelling.
clear.
Please lower your voice. You're yelling,
I'm
sir.
not yelling.
Sir,
I've
please
been
lower your
radio for
voice.
40 years.
Sir,
This is called
sir, lower your
projection.
voice, sir.
You
You're
know
yelling.
as well as I do. This is called projection in radio. I'm not yelling at you.
This
If
is
I
not
yell at you,
projection
you know.
radio. This is called independent radio where I look at both sides of an issue and then I share my opinion. So don't you give me that nonsense.
Well, you're projecting.
Well, you're projecting, sir. Why don't you say something that's
You're the one
factually
yelling.
accurate?
I'm
Because
project-
you haven't
I'm
said
projecting
you
my
haven't
voice.
said
I
one
was
thing
in
that's
broadcast-
factually accurate yet. So go ahead, say something factual.
Okay, I'll say something factual.
I'll wait.
Okay. It was revealed that the Hillary Clinton campaign, in collusion with the FBI, this is the Durham investigation, it was revealed that they spied on the Trump campaign and then continued to spy on him as president within inside the walls of the White House.
Okay, so let's respond to that.
revealed.
Let's respond to that claim. Where was
Okay.
the charge, sir?
There is no charge yet.
Oh,
It's
so
an
there's no
investigation.
charges. So you're projecting, sir. It's just an opinion. Have a nice day.
I'm not
I've
projecting.
had enough of you, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you for calling in. You're welcome to call back tomorrow. And by the way, I loved you on Seinfeld. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, 702-221-7283. Let's go to John. John is next. Hello, John.
John, help us out, my friend.
Hey, man. Kramer, I love Seinfeld, but boy, that Kramer, I'll bet anybody, I'll bet you lunch at Nobu that Kramer's an uneducated white man. Want to bet?
Hey, news to me, right, John? That I didn't know there were different laws and different rules for people that voted for Donald Trump and people that voted for Joe Biden. I guess I learn something new every day, my friend, right?
John, let me ask you a question. How else can I respond to somebody who calls into this show? And listen, God love him. He calls into this show and says, complains about some of the COVID, mandates. That's fine. We can have that conversation. But then he says, it's because I'm a Trump supporter. And last I checked, any of the mandates when it came to the vaccines or anything applied to both Republicans and Democrats. What is this guy talking about?
There's no logic there. He's just hopped up on Fox hate. When Hillary Clinton came out of his mouth, I was like, there we go. It's just Benghazi and emails and whataboutisms, and it's just pathetic, man. These people have no ability to think critically. They're disappointed in their station in life and their accomplishments in life, and they want to blame it on immigrants. It's just pathetic, man. The state of our country, from Rupert, an Australian has destroyed this country because he figured out that you can peddle in fear and hate and make millions and millions of dollars off of it.
I don't know how else to talk to people like that. If you didn't like the mandates or you didn't like not being able to go into a restaurant, hey, there was a global pandemic. There was a time in our country where 5,000 people were dying every single day. Was it fun? No, I hated the fact that we couldn't go places, that we had to wear masks. But you know what? I did it and I lived with it because I knew it was better for the common good of the country and it would save lives. Were there mistakes made? Absolutely. Could we have run things better? Not in this country just, but across the world? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean I sat there and I said, oh, I'm not going to wear a mask. They're going after me because I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. Last I checked, the rules were put in place and they didn't ask every person walking into a restaurant, hey, did you vote for Trump? Because if you voted for Trump, you can't come into this restaurant. But if you voted for a Democrat, come right in. It doesn't matter whether you were vaccinated or not. That's not how it worked. And the fact that people actually believe that stuff is so crazy to me, John. I don't even know how to respond to somebody like that.
Kramer wakes up in the morning, and anytime anything goes wrong in his life, he tries to figure out how to blame Democrats for it. It's really that simple. But hey, I called for another reason. I mean, we could go on with Kramer, but he's not worth any more time. Look, I hope somebody, some young buck, details in great pain what exactly transpired, that McCarthy needed 15 votes to become speaker. What exactly did he give away? I really hope somebody does a documentary on that. It would be fascinating.
Well, we know, John, we know exactly what McCarthy gave away a long time ago. When Trump took office, he gave away his spine. So we know that Kevin McCarthy doesn't have a spine. We know that he gave away his backbone. We don't know where it went. Maybe he gave it to his wife. I don't know. But
I heard what Joe Walsh said, and I'm coming around on him thanks to you, Brian. But
Walsh is a good man. He's a good man.
I think it's more than wanting 15 minutes on Tucker Carlson's show or trying to raise money. I think part of what he gave away has to do with these committee assignments, and I think it has to go to criminal liability. You know, shocker. Many Trump administrators, legislators, and sycophants are under criminal investigation. And I suspect that some of these committee assignments, in part, Matt Gaetz is one of those folks. I think he was trying to negotiate to manipulate the rules in some way that he would perhaps limit or curtail his potential criminal liability.
Yeah, you might be right about that, John. Hey, it's good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you later. Okay,
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Great show, guys.
Thank you. All right, again, that number 702-221-7283. And again, 221-7283. Going back to what I said earlier, Chris, this is not a show where it's about projection. This is not a show where, for example, 99% of talk radio today that is political, Chris, you will agree with me on this, is all right-wing echo.
Absolutely, it is.
It's called right-wing echo chamber radio. I am a registered independent, and there's no question I lean to the left on many of social issues in this country. During the midterms, I voted for Republicans and Democrats because I vote both ways. I take an issue, and then I form my own opinions. Example, I'll turn on CNN. And then I'll go on, and even though I don't enjoy it, I'll put on Fox News and hear what they're saying about that specific issue. And then I form my own opinions because that is what I do. This is not a show about projection. Nobody's paying me. These are my and yours personal opinions that I share on this show, and I try to base my opinions on something that many people on the far right, a word that they can't spell, which is called fact. And I'm going to go back because we had a gentleman that just called in, not John, who just said that because he voted for Donald Trump,
his rights were taken away.
His rights were taken away.
He can't go into IHOP without a mask because he voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, that
he
must
can't
be
get
what
on an airplane and travel to where he wants to go because he voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He can't do this and he couldn't do that
'Cause that's the
during
way
the
it works.
pandemic because he voted for Donald Trump. What are we doing, people? What is wrong with you, brother? You're killing me.
Hey,
and by the
Chris.
way, the back and forth, you guys are talking projection. I was having flashbacks, Mr. Mark Hayes and Mr. Shapiro, to Wedding Crashers, right? Little Vince Vaughn and little
Hey, Chris, you
little,
know
little back and forth.
Chris.
You're projecting.
Chris.
No, you're projecting.
Chris, you must have been ignorant to facts because, during the pandemic, when I went into IHOP, I saw the host there and she was asking everybody what their political affiliation was. And she was asking them if they voted for Trump. And, if they voted for Trump, sorry, you got to go. Oh, you voted for Biden? Oh, come right in. Yeah, because that's exactly how the pandemic worked.
Yeah.
How could people think like that? Can people really be that ignorant to facts that that's the way they think?
Yes, they can, Brian. And to your point that you brought up about 10, 15 minutes ago regarding people calling into the show, right, Brian?
Yeah.
And saying that you're a liar. And you
I'm a liar.
asking for examples.
Yeah.
Look, whether it was this show here, Pushing the Limits here at KSHP, whether it was the old show that we used to do, right, at another station, there was never anybody that was able to call in and give exact point in fact details of when you were lying or when you were actually saying something that was factually inaccurate,
Chris,
at all.
Hey, Chris.
It never happened.
Chris,
okay,
stop.
and it's not going to happen now.
Chris, stop projecting. You're yelling.
Yes, I am projecting.
702-221.
You better lock it up. No, you better lock it up.
702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Steven. Steven is next. What's up, Steven?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Steven? Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, I think it's a great day. Not only did Brunson versus Adam gets kicked down to the trash can by the Supreme Court, Georgia has finalized its grand jury, which we know what's going to happen there. I only need 11,780 votes.
Correct.
I'm just kind of wondering what type of conspiracy theories the Trump lovers are going to pill up next.
Well, Steven, you bring up a good point because we haven't even talked about what's going to be happening to Trump when it comes to the possible indictments. You make a very good point. We remember, Stephen, and you do as well as I only need so many votes, in Georgia. I just need to find so many votes,
11,780.
Correct.
Exact.
And we all know what that meant, right, Stephen? That meant just cheat and get me 12,000 fake votes so I could become the next president of the United States. I don't care about democracy. And by the way, those are Republicans, the Republican Secretary of State over there.
Ratzenberger voted for Trump.
Exactly.
He did. He voted for Trump.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And the thing is this. I've been doing this since in 2015 when Periscope was up. I'm on TikTok and I've been and on Twitter and all this fighting all this stuff. The thing is this: he wasn't looking for voter fraud. He was looking specifically for himself. He didn't care about anybody else but him.
Correct.
The win is for him. And he planted the seeds of doubt in 2016, saying the only way he's going to win if it's a rigged election. He did in 2019, 2020. He did this because he knew he had exactly the people that he wanted, the uneducated people, which Donald Trump says, I love the uneducated.
Yeah.
Which is a ridiculous statement. And by the way, Stephen, to your point also with what's going down in Georgia, the former president literally threatened Ratzenberger on that phone call as well, too, saying, look, if you don't have my back and you don't know the right thing, it could be bad for you, right? From a legal standpoint and from a political standpoint, obviously, as well, too.
Yeah,
but there was an actual threat that was in that call.
Stephen,
I don't want any trouble for you.
Stephen, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
What do you think Republicans would be saying if Barack Obama, after the election, called into a state like a Georgia that maybe he lost and said, I just need to find, 7,000 votes or 11,000 votes. What do you think Republicans would say if Barack Obama had lost to Mitt Romney or John McCain and said that John McCain was an illegitimate president and I won the election in a landslide, and then we had an insurrection that was run by Democrats and Barack Obama supporters? Do you think Republicans wouldn't want to find out how and why that happened? How do you think Republicans would have responded to that?
They would have impeached him. They would have used the 14th Amendment against him. They would have done everything possible to get him out of the White House, up to tar and feathering him and running him out on a rail.
Yeah,
Stephen
I agree.
Stephen and Brian, if that would have happened, Republicans' heads would have exploded, right?
Yes.
Can you imagine Republicans, if they're dealing with Democrats doing all of what Brian just talked about? They would have absolutely gone bonkers on top of what Stephen just said. That would transpire.
Hey, Stephen, I appreciate you calling in, my friend, and you call back anytime. Okay, we're going to
say one more thing?
Yeah, quickly, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, remember, on February 6th, there's the defamation case that E. Jean Carroll has coming up. Also, on November 24th at 12:01, 2022, because New York changed the status of people being sexually molested by people like Trump. She was able to file a case against him now because now they've given her, people like her who've been sexually molested another year. So she filed a rape case against Donald Trump. The thing is this, he's fighting giving his DNA, as you know.
Yeah, and by the way, if you recall, there were at least 25 women that accused Donald Trump of sexual assault or rape, including Donald Trump's ex-wife in court documents. And then after they settled, she, put those statements to bed, and she said, but in a court document, Donald Trump's ex-wife, I believe it was Ivana Trump, wasn't it? That said
it was Ivana Trump, and then Michael Cohen threatened her that if she doesn't recant that, that she's going to lose her money from a divorce.
But the Republicans out there, some of them, not all of them, want to say that Joe Biden is the child molester. It is so ridiculous. Stephen, it is good to hear from you, my friend, and hopefully call back soon. Okay, I appreciate the call, sir. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Good phone call. 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, that number is 702-221-7283. Again, we can have disagreements, right? We can disagree. Again, an opinion is Joe Biden's a terrible president. Okay, that's an opinion. I would probably disagree with you, but I'm willing to have that conversation with you. But when you call into the show and you say, because I voted for Donald Trump, I wasn't able to go to restaurants and I wasn't able to do this and I wasn't able to do that. It's just factual. It's just not true. I mean, we can have opinions. You can disagree with the way COVID was handled. You can disagree with the way certain politicians put in mandates. Again, that's a very fair conversation to have. But to just blatantly say with no truth to it that because I voted for Donald Trump, my rights were taken away. That's, and by the way, it's not your right. This is how stupid that statement is. It's a private business. Let's just say he brought up restaurants. Let's just say that's true for a moment, which it's not, that if you're a Trump supporter, a restaurant has the right to not provide you service. Now, they can't not provide you service because of your race or gender, right? Although the Supreme Court ruled that if you're gay, a place doesn't have to serve you if it's against their religious rights. There's something called a private business, and a private business can kick you out if they don't like you for a reason. Now, this is a perfect segue to what we're going to be talking about next, because in the next segment, Chris, the Las Vegas Raiders kicked out a fan for simply holding up a few signs, one of which said Bench McDaniels. So we're going to get into freedom of speech. Okay. We're going to get into this very topic. when we come back.
But what they confuse quickly, Brian, right, is what the government's ability is to do, right, with respect to free speech and what private companies, i.e. Twitter, right? Twitter's obviously been embroiled in a lot of this because you've got a lot of people chirping on social media about how, I'm on a social media site and I don't get to say what I want to say. And I don't, and I'm handcuffed by what's a private company, and they're using it in the same context as if it's government interference, restricting your freedom of speech. And that's why it's a big problem. And that's why people just, again, I talked about fundamentally not understanding what a democratic republic is. There's a lot of dumb people out there, mostly right-wingers, okay, when it comes to free speech and what private companies can do and what the government can do.
And this is a conversation we're going to have on the other side, but you're right. Free speech pertains to the government, freedom of speech. There are a lot of Republicans out there when they talk about Twitter and Elon Musk and how conservatives allegedly, they're being silenced. Freedom of speech pertains to the government. It doesn't pertain to you going on social media. That is a private business. I don't understand why so many people on the right don't understand that. Now, I can disagree with it. I don't think you should ever be allowed to incite violence. You should not be allowed to threaten people. There are certain things where you should never cross a certain line or say something racist or homophobic, right? Companies have a responsibility to take that stuff off of there. But again, it's their company. While I disagree with Elon Musk, and I disagree with a lot of what he stands for, he owns the company. If today he decided to get every liberal and every Democrat off of Twitter, he would have the right to do it. Even though we could disagree with it, he would have the right to do that. You can say it's freedom of speech, but it's not, because it doesn't pertain to the government. Example, you can go on a sidewalk today and you could hold up a sign that says, I don't know,
I love Adolf Hitler.
You could say, I love Adolf Hitler. You can do you can do that. The government can't take your sign away or kick you off the street. However, there are consequences to your actions. Example, if your employer finds out about it, and I would imagine they would deem that to not reflect very well on their company, they can fire you. People can take pictures of you on a public sidewalk and post it on social media. People could possibly identify who you are. It happens every day. There are consequences to your behavior. There are consequences to your words. For example, and then we'll take a break. I won the election in a landslide. Joe Biden is a cheater. The Democrats cheated. If those words weren't expressed months before January 6th, guess what, folks? January 6th doesn't happen, just like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. He is Chris Wynn. I am Brian Shapiro. I've been called worse. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. Phone lines open. 702-221-7283. Again, that number is 221-7283. Speaking of freedom of speech, interesting conversation when we come back. There have been fans that have been kicked out all over the country, but particularly I'm going to focus on Las Vegas today and the Raiders. Fans have been kicked out of the Allegiant Stadium for holding up signs. Those signs don't have swears. They don't have threats. I'll tell you exactly what those signs said and what happened. Does this pertain to freedom of speech? We'll talk about it when we come back, and we'll take your calls on the other side at 221-7283. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey, everybody. It's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement, and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
KSHP listeners, never miss a moment of your favorite show.
As a 3-time international award-winning restaurant, Joe's New York Pizza uses only the freshest and best available ingredients. From giant slices of hand-tossed pie to calzone, strombolis, fingers, and wings, Joe's serves all your favorites. Stop in for a slice at one of their 2 Las Vegas locations at Paradise and Harmon or South Las Vegas Boulevard, or you can check out their menu at joesnewyorkpizzalv.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Push the Limit on a Monday. If you're new to the show, you're just tuning in for the first time. We are live Monday through Friday, June to 2 p.m. Standard Time. And, we had Roger Stone on a few weeks ago. I've had the First Lady on this show. All sorts of different walks of life. Comedian TJ Miller was in studio. Everybody from porn stars to politicians, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we do on this show. We switch it up. I want to tell you guys about my favorite gaming bar in town, which is called Jackson's Bar and Grill. They're having their 20-year anniversary party from 7 to 11 p.m. Yours truly will be there. Chris Wynn will be there as well as a few UNLV greats. Marcus Banks will be there taking pictures, signing autographs. Anderson Hunt, the MVP of the UNLV National Championship team, will be there. Oh, this will be fun. American Idol's William Hung. She bangs, she bangs. He will be there as well. The Vegas Golden Knight will be there at 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. January 20th. They're giving out $5,000 in prizes and free play and free food. You know how much I love free food. And they've got great promotions in January as well. Please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill. It's located at Flamingo and Jones. Chris, I know that you're a fan.
I'm a absolute fan. Hopefully you get some momentary karaoke with William Hung in the house, right? To display his outstanding voice, my friend.
William Hung has agreed to sing She Bang, She Bang. There's going to be a live DJ there. So that's going to be a TMZ moment. There's no question about that. All right, Chris. So we're going to get to the actual Raiders football game with Gully from Silver and Black Today podcast coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Yes.
But we're going to hold off on that till now. So last week, Chris, I don't know if you saw this story. And by the way, this doesn't just pertain to the Raiders. It pertains to any fan who goes to professional sporting events. This affects you. So you want to listen to this. Last week against the San Francisco 49ers, a fan at Allegiant Stadium said that security threatened to remove him from the stadium for displaying a sign that read, "Fire McDaniels and keep Carr." Okay, so that happened last week. This week, it took to even another level. This made national news today. This week, in a situation involving a different fan, security actually followed through on that threat. Videos circulated on social media since Saturday of 2 fans being escorted away from their seats by Allegiant Stadium security. The reason for their dismissal? By all accounts of those who were sitting near them, and I'm trying to get one of those fans to come on the show so I can get a firsthand account this week, the fans were removed for displaying a sign that read, bench McDaniels. For those of you that don't know, Josh McDaniels is the head coach, at least for now, of the Las Vegas Raiders. According to some of the witnesses, the removal of the fans, it happened during the halftime show, and one angle seemed to show the fan displaying the sign to players and coaches as they approached the tunnel. Now, we know that Mark Davis has endorsed Josh McDaniels. This story is not really about the fans' opinion. It's a very fair opinion, and to some level, I actually agree with it. But my opinion on this whole issue is as follows. This makes the Raiders look very, very petty, and it's wrong. Let me be very clear. If you swear or threaten somebody or say something racially insensitive, get the hell out of there. I'm all for it. Get those fans out. If you're causing a disturbance to another fan because they're wearing a different jersey than yours, get the hell out of there. As a fan, you have the right to express yourself in this manner. If you think Josh McDaniels should be fired and you want to hold up a sign that says fire McDaniels, or in this case, bench McDaniels, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm sure the Raiders organization doesn't like it. I'm sure Josh McDaniels and the team doesn't like it. But sometimes fans have a right to voice their opinions, and you should allow them to do so. Mark Davis is still making money off of that fan. He paid to be in the arena. This makes the Raiders look very petty. It's wrong. And that fan should get free tickets to next season. That's my personal opinion. Now, whether I agree with the fan or not is irrelevant, but I'll take it a step further and say, I understand his frustration. This was an embarrassing Raiders season. We'll get to that later. Yes, the Raiders do legally have a right to kick him out. I'm not arguing whether the Raiders have a right legally to do it or not. The fan doesn't have a case. I'm saying what the Raiders did makes them look foolish. It makes them look petty, and they are wrong. What do you say, Chris?
I want to think that there's more to this story, right? Now, the way you just laid it out and described it, to me, it's cut and dry wrong on the part of the Las Vegas Raiders and the organization. If anybody in the organization or anybody that was on site that day or anybody that's part of the security team decided or made the call, this is just like the situation with the NFL and the 5-minute thing, right? When DeMar got hurt, it's the same thing to me. It's the wrong call. If that was the only reason is because of that sign that this fan was kicked out, then what do we have as far as the Allegiant Stadium policies regarding the signs? Are we following them? Because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that you're going to kick a fan out for a sign that's that mild, a sign that has that description on there, a sign that is making that statement. You're not going to just kick the fan out for that. So I would think there's more to the story. Did the fan do something egregious? Did the fan do something, as you pointed out, was there racial epithets used? Was there something else that the fan did that got them kicked out? Well, what I'm saying is it doesn't make any sense that the Raiders, right? And there was even some talk on sports radio today, locally and around the country regarding this, because they were actually talking about this situation. There were actually people out there saying that Josh McDaniels, there were people that thought Josh McDaniels saw the sign in the stands and he said, hey, get that fan out of here. What? You think Josh McDaniels, the head coach of the Raiders, is looking up in the stands and nitpicking and, having rabbit ears about fans, or even, looking at signs and saying, no, that didn't happen. So again, and I extend this out to the security team. Who on the security team? There has to be protocol, right? And procedures regarding this. And there has to be a method to the madness, a reason why the fan was ejected. It can't be just because he has a sign that says that says bench Josh McDaniels. That's not enough. Yeah. And it's not egregious enough to eject the fan from the stadium.
So let me,
on the last game of the year against a team that, by the way, you're getting waxed by the Kansas City.
So Chris, the fan last week, the San Francisco 49ers fan, did go on a podcast and he said what happened. He had a sign up that said, fire McDaniels, keep Carr. Doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree with the fan. He has the right to hold up a sign. So we agree with that. Here's what the fan said. He said, long story short, security said the decision on the sign came from the top of the top. The sign had to get put away or I was getting removed from the stadium. The fan identified himself as Brendan. He said there was another guy next to me and he asked, was it from Mark Davis? And the security guy just nodded and said, yeah. He said that Davis was not happy and does not want it in the stadium.
That's nonsense, Brian. Let me tell you something. That's complete BS. You know why? They're not looking. It's not every, the person that's the head of security, right? Or any individual that is the higher ups when it comes to the Raiders, as far as executives, is not making individual decisions based on signage in the stadium. They're not.
Right.
So that's complete nonsense. So when I hear that, and when I don't know if it's a fan who says that or if anybody, if there is some security guard at Allegiant Stadium that makes that claim, they're just covering up for their own. Maybe the fan pissed them off. Maybe the fan, irritated them. Whatever. They're making the decision on the spot on their own, and that's a wrong decision, by the way. And they shouldn't be making those decisions. And their bosses, their supervisors of security, whoever the bosses are, need to be addressing that and making sure that they're not making individual calls like that.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense whatsoever.
So let me throw this out to the people that are watching and listening. Do you think are you okay with ownership? It could be an NFL franchise, could be an NBA franchise, NHL, Major League Baseball, whatever. Are you okay with a franchise kicking a fan out for holding up a sign that says fire the general manager or fire the coach? Are you okay with that? I'll open up the phone lines now because I'll tell you right now, I'm not. And I am very hard on some fans. I think if a fan, even threatens violence or anything racially insensitive, anything like that, they should be thrown out and banned forever. But in this situation, I back the fans on this one. I think this makes the Raiders look really foolish. What are your thoughts on this? 702-221-7283. And let me give out that number again because I want to get your thoughts on this. This affects all of you, or it could affect all of you, right? 702-221-7283 is the number to call. I believe if a fan is acting violent or even threatens violence or is heavily intoxicated, get them the hell out. But I believe this takes it to a whole new level. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Al. Al, what's going on?
Hey, listen. So you were talking about, I got some echo going on. You were talking about that it's not fair for some people to be getting thrown out or for whatever reason. I want to tell you that Joey Gilbert, did you know I'm Republican? Mm-hmm. Him and his group got thrown out of the Republican Party's. We had an event.
Right.
And so if it's a private event, whether it's on public or private property, you can get thrown out.
Okay.
Now, I got thrown out at the East Las Vegas Library at a Democratic event. They didn't want to let me in. And eventually they told me that I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
So basically, if it's a private event, they can throw you out because they don't like the shoes you're wearing.
Yeah, so
we're not saying that legally they don't have the option. What Brian and I were saying is that it's a bad decision. We think it's a bad decision. Like, for example, you gave the example of your going to a political event. Did you have a ticket to the event, or were you credentialed to the event, or you just tried to walk in, unsolicited, or
no?
What was the deal?
Thing is, it was a public event. And they put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then they had a QR code, but it didn't say you had to RSVP. So we showed up. And so, hey, you know what? That's fine. They don't want me in there. Okay. But, Joey Gilbert's people are Republican. They have a candidate out there.
So, Al, here's my opinion. So, Al, I think you probably know what my answer is going to be here, Al, but I want to be clear on this because this is very important. I'm not arguing, and I'm going to go back to the Raiders for a second, Al. I'm not arguing that the Raiders don't have a right. Now, if they kicked out a guy and there was evidence because he was straight or gay, if they kicked out somebody because of their sexuality or because of the color of their skin, then there could be legal repercussions, right? But legally, they probably have a right to kick you out, and they certainly have a right to kick out a fan if they don't like a sign. Why? Because it's a private business and you're not on public property, you're on private property. Yeah. But Al, I disagree with it, right? I disagree with what the Raiders did. And if somebody kicked you out because they just didn't like the fact that you are a Republican, I disagree with that as well. Now what I don't like is for example, at a political event, if somebody interrupts the event, it could be a Democrat or a Republican, you have to kick those people out. Or I'll take it a step further. And I'm not saying they thought this about you. But if they see somebody going into an event and they fear that, oh, this person has been kicked out of other events, we don't want them to come to this event because they might disturb the event, then I'm okay with that decision. But if there's no evidence of that, then I don't agree with it. And I think what the Raiders did here, and I listen, from my understanding, it did come from the top. And if it did, Mark Davis, I supported Mark Davis, and I like Mark Davis as a human being. I don't think he's a great owner of a football team. He's a good owner of a WNBA team. He hasn't done a great job with the Raiders, but I think he's a decent man. But I think they're way off on this, and I think they need to address this because this makes the Raiders, Al, look very foolish, in my opinion.
But Al and,
totally
Brian,
agree.
think about this. It's not. Al, what you're saying is not happening. Al, I mean, Mark is not looking down and auditing signs in the stands. It's just not. It doesn't make any sense. Why would Mark Davis be doing that?
Okay,
He's
so
not.
hold on, Al. Let me repeat what I just said, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm just going by the fan who allegedly was.
So the fan
asked,
is alleging that.
So I'm going to say what this guy said.
Okay.
There was another guy next to me, and he asked, "Was it Mark Davis?" And the security guard nodded his head and said, "Yeah." He said that Davis was not happy and does not want it in the stadium. Now, do I know if that's 100% true or not? No, but I'm going by a witness account. That's all.
No. That's a security guard putting that out there. That doesn't make it true.
I don't know if
Doesn't
it's
mean
true.
that it happened.
Well, somebody
You think Mark
complained.
Davis is on the horn down to security guard
Well,
saying, "Get this guy out of here."
well, let's ask Al.
Because he's got a
Well-
Josh McDaniels bench sign.
Okay, well,
Come on.
well, I'm going to tell you,
That's
somebody
ridiculous.
told security to threaten to kick this guy out. Somebody told security over the weekend.
been a
to
number
kick
of
him, okay,
Yeah.
but it's somebody within the Raiders organization.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
Doesn't
agree
mean it's
on
Mark Davis.
Okay, whether it was Mark Davis or whether it was an intern, I don't care. It's wrong. Al, do you agree?
I agree with you. Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree it was wrong, but the thing is that I don't think it's good policy for the Raiders to be doing. But the reason I wanted to call, be neutral on this thing is that if you go get thrown out of a public event, don't go do something stupid. You're going to end up in jail because
Well, I agree.
they're within their right.
Certainly.
That's
That goes
kind of the
without saying.
reason I called in.
Yeah, Al, I have one more quick
Right.
question before we let you go. Have you bought any
Yes, sir.
Kevin McCarthy posters recently?
Kevin McCarthy, no.
Okay.
With an
Kevin
SOTH
McCarthy, no, I have not.
label
Yeah, there's a
underneath
lot- I
his
thought you were
picture.
telling Kevin. No, I haven't. I was following that whole event. It was just a bunch of drama. We'll
Yes,
see
it
what
was.
happens. I mean, it's just a bunch of
Yeah.
craziness. The one that I would like you to have is a person that I'm a fan of. Is if you get Kevin McMahill.
I've had him on. I've had him on. I have.
Oh, you've had him on? Oh, you have? I
I
didn't know
talk to
that.
Kevin all the time. I've had him on. I love Kevin. I think he's a great guy. I think he's going to be a great sheriff. I
think
like
he's
him a lot.
great guy.
I agree.
I think he's
Yeah.
doing a great job.
Yeah.
I hope we all give him all our support. Everybody
Agreed.
get involved in the community and make it
Yep.
safer, man.
Thank you for the
I'm
call,
gonna look
Al.
up for that. Hey, you know what? Unban me from your Facebook because I can't see your stuff on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Well, Al, we're friends again, so I'll unban you. Okay.
All righty, man. Not a problem. Okay.
Okay.
We'll talk to you guys
All
later,
right.
man.
All right. Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you. I didn't know Al was banned on my Facebook page. I just learned. I didn't know that.
You have some Mark Davis personal animus, Mr. Shapiro, towards some of the PTL fans out there. There are a lot of people that are fans of PTL, my friend, that have
Good.
different viewpoints than you have, particularly from political landscape.
You know
No
what's
question.
crazy? I started on a few different social media platforms. I have over 1 million views on a few social media platforms in a couple weeks. So people are watching.
To that point, Brian, props to a lot of the people engaging on social media, both on to the TikTok feed as well as on Facebook Live. You're getting a lot of engagement across the board. Thanks to Chad.
Well,
Carroll,
I'm not
thanks to
engaged. I was
Leslie
engaged
Lewis,
at one
thanks
point.
Thanks to Michelle Winarski and Beebs for democracy as well.
Oh, boy.
So a lot of people chiming in, Mr. Shapiro,
Yes.
when it comes to these topics here on PTL Vegas.
I want to bring up DeMar Hamlin. I haven't really gotten into this with you, Chris, because we did the show last Monday, and it was before, obviously, the tragic. It's amazing what has taken place since then. And I want to talk about it because this is a feel-good story. I don't know whether DeMar Hamlin will ever be able to play professional sports again. But the fact that this man is breathing on his own, and then he has this Facebook chat with members of the team is so incredible to me. And it's such an emotional story, but the Raiders, I will give props to the Raiders now, where they honored DeMar Hamlin and every NFL team did. And it's just a wonderful way that for the most part, I would say 99.9% of people brought people together. Obviously you're always going to get some unintelligent people that are going to blame the vaccines on what took place with DeMar Hamlin, which is idiotic. But for the most part, everybody came together. It didn't matter what team you supported. It didn't matter where you came from or what you looked like. Everybody came together and prayed for DeMar Hamlin. And the fact that this is going on now is really great.
No question, right? That Brian,
Yeah.
this is one of those things where it could have been worst case scenario or best case scenario. It turns out it was a damn good scenario because
And-
he is now in the process of recovering and is absolutely a positive story.
And
And it was great to see how that all shook out yesterday with that Buffalo Bills New England Patriots game, where the opening kickoff, Mr. Shapiro, was taken to the house by the Buffalo Bills. You can't draw a script up
Pretty
like
cool.
that.
And Mark just gave me this information, which I was unaware of, which is some more good news when it comes to Damar Hamlin. This is great. So he's heading back to Buffalo today for treatment, which I think is fantastic. What I think about in my mind, this is like a movie, Chris, because it looks like we're going to have a happy ending here. What I think about in my mind is what it would be like if Damar Hamlin is able to even attend a Buffalo Bills playoff game. Now, obviously, I'm sure his health is still very up in the air, but the fact that he's breathing on his own, and I'm just saying it's a big if. There's a lot of good football teams out there. I just saw the Chiefs play over the weekend. Phenomenal team. There's a lot of teams, I'd say at least 5 or 6 teams that can win it all this year. Buffalo being one of them. I think we can agree on that. If, in fact, Buffalo makes it to the Super Bowl in Arizona, and if Damar Hamlin is able to be on the sidelines, sitting down or standing up.
Let me tell you something.
That'd be incredible.
That's absolutely something that could possibly happen. He was live tweeting during the game yesterday, my friend.
Right.
All right. So he is having a speedy recovery. Look, we're not medical professionals, so I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a lock that if the Bills make the Super Bowl, he's going to be there on the sidelines. Let me tell you something. If they're able to play like that in a game, the final regular season game, and you saw how amped that Buffalo Bills team was, along with the fans there in Buffalo, it was just an incredible scene from an emotional standpoint. If they're able to get up for that, the final regular season game, think about what the Buffalo Bills are going to be able to do from an emotional standpoint come playoff time. When you're playing playoff games, when you have an opportunity to get through that glass ceiling that Buffalo Bills haven't been able to get to, which is win a Super Bowl championship. If they make it to the Super Bowl, you got to believe Damar is going to want to absolutely be in the building.
No question.
I believe Arizona, right? Where the Super Bowl is this year.
Absolutely. So, Chris, I want to bring this story up because it's a tragic story, and it involves medical misinformation, sadly. The same people that were saying Damar Hamlin dropped because he got the vaccine, which is idiotic, by the way. I'm going to go local now. There's a local Las Vegas senior, 18 years old, this poor woman, poor young girl, teenager, 18 years old. And she was playing some flag football, my understanding. And then she took a break and she collapsed and she lost her life. And my thoughts and prayers go out to her family and friends. A young girl just starting her life. And it's just tragic. It's terrible. Some people that you know and some people that I know, mutual friends and people that we don't know personally, we're going on social media, posting this story, spreading more conspiracy theory nonsense that, oh, you see, another one dropping. It's happening all the time. It must be the vaccine. And I get so angry bringing this up because, number one, it's a lie. It's medical misinformation. Number two, the poor mother of this young girl in an interview said in a statement that her daughter suffered from some heart ailments and some heart issues. And even though her doctor said it was okay for her to exercise, clearly it wasn't. She lost her life, and it had nothing to do with the vaccine. I am so angry at people that continue, even in the case of Hamlin, to spread medical misinformation about the vaccines. Now, we know, and by the way, I am not sharing any of this information from just me speculating or something on social media. It's from actual infectious disease experts that don't make appearances on Fox News and Newsmax, people that saved my life. That's where I'm getting my information from. Half the world, more than half the world, as you know, Chris, have taken the vaccine. There is no evidence to suggest that thousands of professional athletes are dropping dead because of the vaccine, so on and so forth. And the people out there that say, oh, you know, I know somebody that got the vaccine and 6 months later had a heart attack. Do you know that person's medical history? Have you spoken to their doctors? And by the way, any infectious disease expert will tell you, this is not Brian talking now. These are actual real experts, that if you take a vaccine, the overwhelming majority of those that will have any type of side effect from the vaccine, you will have it within 2 months. I am tired of these people spreading medical misinformation, especially when people are grieving the loss of loved ones. Here's what I do know. We've lost so many people in this country due to COVID and so many people around the world. While I'm sure you can find some rare cases of the vaccines that have had bad effects on some people, the vaccines have saved so many lives. The evidence is overwhelming of that. And when a young person loses their life, if the first thing that enters your mind is, oh, it must have been the vaccine, then you have some soul searching to do. And it's despicable what you are doing. They did it with Damar Hamlin.
Yep.
And they're doing it with this poor young 18-year-old girl that lost her life.
Okay, and by the way, it does. This is even worse because this young woman lost her life. Brian, her name, by the way, is Ashari Hughes. She's 16, not 18. She's a 16-year-old sophomore at Desert Oasis High School here in Las Vegas. And as you pointed out, she did have some heart issues and ailments that she was dealing with, and she was actually hospitalized. She didn't actually die in the field. She was taken to the hospital and unfortunately
she was
passed
given
away.
CPR,
and actually passed away at the hospital. 16 years old. This young woman, had her whole life ahead of her. This is a tragic situation, right? The situation regarding with Damar Hamlin, yes, it was absolutely traumatic without question, and it affected a lot of us, a lot of people that weren't even in the stadium were affected by it. Make no mistake about it. But it looks like it's going to be a positive outcome to that. It's not with Hughes and her family. She has passed away. She loses her life at the tender age of 16 years old, and that is a tragedy, my friend. And for people out there that you're talking about that are going to tie COVID-19 into this, you know how I feel about it, Brian. And a lot of you out there listening to PTL Vegas right now know how I feel about that. You can go straight to you know where and just stay there because it's completely and utterly absurd and disgusting that you're taking that approach at all.
Go straight to Mar-a-Lago. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
All right. He's Chris Wynn. I'm Brian Shapiro. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to take a break. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at Sahara West Urgent and Primary Care. They're located at 6125 West Sahara Avenue, Suite 1B, Las Vegas, Nevada. No appointment needed. Give them a call, 702-248-0554. You could visit them online at SaharaWestUrgentCare.com. They gave me the testosterone therapy out there. Can't you see, folks? I'm built like Hulk Hogan. Can't you see that? It actually worked. I was in and out of there in 20 minutes, and it was awesome. And I promise they'll take care of you. If you don't have insurance, they take most insurances, but if you don't, $95 payment there. It's awesome. Please check them out. Sahara West Urgent and Primary Care. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get down to a little bit of X's and O's when it comes to what took place over the weekend. Did the players quit on Josh McDaniels? We'll talk about that with goalie Scott Gulbranson from one of the greatest podcasts when it comes to Raider Nation, Silver and Black Today. Goalie will be joining us next. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Mossel. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor for years and prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Mossel representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? So worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. Located at 467 East Silverado Ranch, Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moss. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moss representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, knowledge of DUI law that work for you. Give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
STN Sports is the only sports betting app you need this season. STN Sports has it all. In-play betting, mobile parlay cards, the Play Plus card to fund and withdraw from anywhere in Nevada, and the latest lines on every game. STN Sports even lets you earn rewards on every bet. Safe and easy betting from your phone or tablet. Go to stationcasinosports.com or sign up at any Station Casino, Fiesta Wildfire, or the El Cortez. Details at the sportsbooks.
A great time! Your entertainment destination, the South Point, invites you to experience the ultimate great time under one roof. Playing, dancing, a live show, a movie, delicious dining, and one of South Point's 11 restaurants. So much to see, so much to do. You won't know where to start first. This week, make it a South Point week and discover for yourself why the South Point is your entertainment destination for a great time.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. Glad you could join us. Man, I just started the TikTok thing. 5,000 people were watching us.
He sounds like a senior citizen.
I know, I'm so old.
I just started this TikTok knick-knack thing. What's this all about?
I'm so old. Hey, we had 5,000 people watching us, so that's kind of cool, and like 8,100 likes. So I'm happy to see that. And the guy that's joining us right now, he's got plenty of likes as well. In my opinion, it's the best Raider podcast out there, Silver and Black Today. And we call him Gully. Scott Gulbranson joining us to kind of break down the X's and O's. Scott, thank you so much for joining us on what is a very busy Raider Nation weekend. What's going on, my friend?
Absolutely, Brian. I see you.
Scott, are you there? Did we lose you? Oh, we still got the music going. There we go. Scott, can you hear us? Get that music mark off if you can. There we go. Now we got.
We can hear him a little bit.
Now we got Scott going. What's
going on, Gully?
What's up, Scott?
I'm just checking on Brian to make sure he's on the Twitter and he's on the Facebook. Although
it's that scene from Hot Tub Time Machine, right, Gully, where you got Rob Codry's Twitter, wherever the heck that is.
Well, you know what, Scott? Me and C. Wynn, we haven't even talked about this. Not that we need to get it into it with you, but we went to the AVN Porn Expo.
Yes, we did.
And Chris was approached by a few male directors to maybe join him in some movies. Is that a movie that you would see, Scott?
No.
Just for the record, I politely declined on all counts.
You did.
All of them that came up and suggested they want some C-Win, in the cast. I said, I'm past my prime, gentlemen. Sorry.
Chris, I think we might have stumbled upon Brian's fantasy.
There might be Mr. Gully. I'm telling you, we might have stumbled on some of Shap's fetishes, my friend.
As Scott just said, no. Anyway, let's talk about some Raider football. Hey, before I get to the actual game, Scott, we were talking about, I'm sure you saw this story about some Raider fans that are being kicked out of games for holding up signs that say bench McDaniels, fire McDaniels, keep Derek Carr. I think it makes the Raiders look really bad and petty. What are your thoughts on this story?
So while I agree with you, I don't agree with them taking signs away from people. They say that number one. But it's consistent with what's happening in the NFL. It's consistent with what happened in the MLB. I was at a game last year because their owner's an idiot, and they helped sign up saying sell the team. Guess what happened? They got kicked out. Not because they had to sign, because they refused to stop flashing it. And this is what happened at Ohio State. I think that's as you got to tell. Again, I'm all for free speech in every way. If somebody wants to hold up a sign, if I was the owner, hey, I would allow it. Unless it's obscene, I'm okay with it. But here's the deal. If you look at the code of conduct from the Raiders and every NFL team, it states that they can basically do whatever they want when you go in there. And when you buy the ticket, you're basically signing a contract to do that. So you're giving up the right to have quote unquote freedom of speech. Now, that aside, would I have done it? No. But I've seen the video. You've seen the video. It does not appear this gentleman, and I don't know, maybe he's got a different story. I'd love to hear it. And that is he refused to stop doing it. And so that's why they didn't kick him out for having the sign. They kicked him out because they told him to stop doing it, and he kept doing it. His choice, and I'm all for choice. So if he wants to do that, totally cool.
So Scott,
made news.
So Scott, tell me if you now the fan from last week. I'm not even talking about over the weekend. The fan from last week, his name is Brendan. He did a podcast and he claimed that somebody next to him asked the security guard, "Was this for Mark Davis?" The security guard nodded and said, "Yeah." And he said that Davis was not happy and does not want it in the stadium. Do you believe that, fan? Do you believe that's true?
I don't. And this is why. Now, imagine. Now, when I was growing up, going through college and worked retail jobs, right? What was the easiest thing for me to get somebody who looked down upon me because I was just a lowly college kid making at the time $6-something an hour. And somebody wouldn't want to obey what I asked them to do. I'd say, listen, this is the policy of the store. My manager does this, says this. Of course, the guy's going to say, well, it comes right from the top. Well, yeah, the Raiders are the top. Stadco, which manages the stadium, they're the people who manage the stadium. Technically, who oversees that? Yes. Okay, so it's the Raiders. Did Mark Davis put out a memo or verbally or otherwise to say, listen, if you see any negative signs, take him down? I don't know. Maybe he's like the owner of the Knicks. He doesn't come across that way to me. But again, I'm in favor of allowing people to have signs unless it's something completely outrageous or political in nature.
Right.
To me, you should be able to put up signs. I love this player. I hate this player. I love this owner. Sell the team. Whatever. I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Scott, and I think it makes the Raiders look a bit petty, and I don't like it. We'll have to wait and see if this continues into next year. But yeah. All right, so let's talk about the game over the weekend. Obviously, the Ring Around the Rosie play to me is a microcosm of the entire game. I actually asked Andy Reid about that after the game, and it was a play where they practiced that trick play. But as far as the Ring Around the Rosie thing, that was just something they were screwing around in practice. And apparently Andy Reid told the guys, hey, I kind of like that. It's a good distraction. It looked like they toyed with the Raiders throughout the entire game. Am I wrong in making that assessment?
No, I mean, listen, the Chiefs are in a completely different class than the Raiders in every possible way. Now, does that mean the Raiders can't be a good competitive team even in a year? No, it doesn't mean that. They can if Dave Ziegler does his job right. But listen, the Kansas City Chiefs, you go back to Mike Mayock a couple years ago when he was the GM. And what did he say? Our job is to build a team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You have to win your division, okay? And the Raiders, it shows you the difference where they're at from where they need to be, okay? And so if you look at that and what the Chiefs, was it disrespectful? I guess you can call it that. But guess how you earn respect? You earn respect by winning, and you earn respect by punching the other guy in the mouth. And the Raiders now have lost, I don't know, was it 10 straight games to the Chiefs by 18 points or whatever? I don't know what it is, something crazy like that. And so listen, that's the way it goes. Until you stop them, guess what? If you got somebody bullying you and you sit there and you take it and take it and take it and you can't do anything about it, they're going to keep doing it. So guess what? Raider fans angry about it, don't be mad at the Chiefs. Be mad at the Raiders for not fielding a better team.
So, Scott, 2 weeks ago, obviously, in a close loss to the San Francisco 49ers, there was a little bit of waxing poetic regarding Jarrett Stidham, right? At the quarterback position, talks about what, he's played himself into a situation where he could be a bridge-type guy or even have a career as a starting quarterback in the NFL. What were your impressions of him as he closed out the season as well, too, in a very underwhelming fashion, at least, against the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, again, we said, by the way, I want to congratulate you, Lions. There you go.
Thank you very much. Yes.
That's good for you. Okay. So you look at Jarrett Stidham, first of all, 2 games. It's an audition. Yes, it's a little bit of, hey, what are we going to see from this kid? And yes, he reverted a little bit or regressed a little bit, only because guess what? People had tape on him. But if you look at the Raiders were doing, listen, offensively much different than it was. But I think if you look at him, I've never looked at him as anybody other than somebody who's competing, perhaps go into the spring to compete for the job. And 2 games, do I think he can do that? No. Do I think he should be perhaps back up next year? Or maybe he's a guy because they dropped a rookie? Perhaps. But I think look at that and he has no experience. And so, there's only a few Brock Purdy examples in the history of the NFL. And so you have to look at that and you put it into context of, were people giving him the gold jack after 1 game? If they were, they're ridiculous. Instead, you're looking at the skill set, and I think he showed some really great stuff. But he also showed his inexperience by making some bad decisions on Sunday.
Yeah, it had very much the look of a Matt Flynn situation, right, in Green Bay, I believe about a decade ago, when to cap off the regular season, he had that monster game against my Detroit Lions, as a matter of fact, and then ended up getting the huge contract in Seattle. But what it leads us to, right, Gully, is the offseason, and that's going to be one of the talking points, right, my friend, when it comes to the Raiders and as far as how things are shaken up from a personnel standpoint in that the quarterback position. From Scott Gulberson's perspective, who is going to be under center, and who are the people that are in the running to be under center for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023, my friend?
Boy, if I had a really great answer for you, Chris, I'd be putting money down right now on an app. On a prop because I'm not sure. I mean, all the talk about Tom Brady, all the talk about those happen absolutely. But at the same time, they're at number 7 in the first round of the draft. Teams could be looking down. A lot of quarterback hungry team top of that first round. Going to be competitive there. It all depends on what teams think. So if I look at it, I really believe at this point that they're going to go with a veteran bridge guy. And they're going to draft the quarterback, whether it's in that first pick or not. And then Jarrett will be there too. It'll be a little bit of a competition for who is the backup. And maybe the starter, depending on what happens in the spring. But I think they go in with a guy they can count on as a starter, as a bridge starter. And then they have to draft or go out and get a young quarterback and develop that person into the future franchise quarterback. Remember, AFC West. I should say AFC playoffs. Oldest quarterback in the AFC playoffs is 27 years old.
All right, so Scott, I want to give you my opinions on the coaching staff and moving forward, and then I want to get your thoughts, and you could tell me whether you agree or not on it. I think Josh McDaniels did not do a very good job, clearly. I don't believe that the play calling was very good all year. I certainly wouldn't put it all on Derek Carr. He certainly had a terrible year. You got to put a lot of responsibility on him, but I also think the play calling wasn't very good. The defense has not been as good as it needs to be. Is it all on Josh McDaniels? No. Is it all on Derek Carr? No. But a lot of the responsibility has to go on the coaching staff. Now, I'm not talking about financial situation now. I'm just giving you my opinion on what I think Mark Davis should do. You're going to give him another year. You're going to give him an opportunity to get his players, so there's no more excuses. He now has an offseason to get a quarterback. He has an offseason to pick up some new players, get rid of the players he doesn't want on the team. If they don't make the playoffs next year, I'm not saying make it to a Super Bowl. I'm not even saying winning a playoff game. I'm saying, in my opinion, Josh McDaniels and this staff have an offseason. You need to make the playoffs next year. I don't care how good their division is, or you got to let them go. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I don't know that he's got a full year. I mean, listen, if this guy starts off 0-5, could happen. You never know. Then he's gone early. I mean, you can't look at this situation. I don't care, especially to your point. If you go out, you've made the decision on the quarterback. So you're going to go get a new quarterback. That's all driven by system, by the GM and the coach. And then you're going to go out and you're going to rebuild the offensive line, which they should have done last year. They didn't do. Another criticism there, really, of Dave Ziegler. And then you've got to build that defense. So if they can't put it together quickly to the point where they're competitive enough, then you got to look at the coaching. He's already the focus of national hire because he has such a record as a head coach. And I don't see Mark Davis being that patient. I don't care if he's best buds with Dave Ziegler. If he goes too, that first half of the season is big for him. He knows he's on the hot seat. So they got to come in hot. They got to make the right choice at quarterback. They got to get the offensive line. Those play together, by the way. It's a Tom Brady. And then they got to make progress on defense. They have to draft their balls on guys. They have to.
Yeah. Speaking of bright spots, you talked about it. Brian was there to cover the game on Saturday. One of the most chatter and talked about things post-game was Josh Jacobs, right, Scott, and what he's had this year. Obviously, the NFL's leading rusher, had a tremendous season, and now the focus goes to the offseason and bringing him back in the fold, right, Scott? I gotta believe that Raider Nation out there and the Raiders themselves feel that you talk about the guys you need to have in place for next season if you're going to be one of those teams that contends for an AFC playoff spot. I gotta believe that retaining Josh Jacobs in any way, shape, or form is going to be imperative for the silver and black to do that.
Correct. If this was 5 weeks ago, I would have fought the other way on that one. But I do think that because the money's free now, you're saving $35 million with Derek Carr. There's a lot of contracts coming off that roster. A bunch of these guys are going to be gone. The Raiders could have upwards of $60 million in cap space. So give Josh Jacobs his money. I mean, he deserved it. He earned it this year. He stayed healthy for the most part. I know he had a little bit of an injury at the end, but that's going to happen, especially with the extended season. So with Devontae Adams and perhaps a young quarterback or a coach quarterback, you need all the tools you can on offense. So I don't think they have much choice. And I think Josh Jacobs wants to say, so they might get a little less than if he was just on the open market.
All right, so Scott, last question. We talked about this last time you were on the show, and it seems like a lot of people have been talking about this over the course of the last several weeks, which is who is going to be the next Raiders QB. You know, I'm watching the Packers game last night, and obviously the Packers not making postseason. You look at Aaron Rodgers as he was walking out of Lambeau Field into the tunnel. He gave that look to the fans and that emotion, which is basically the look of, okay, well, this will probably be my last time in Lambeau Field wearing a Packers jersey. I don't think he's going to be on this team next year. What does that mean for the Raiders? I still think Tom Brady and Garoppolo are probably the two favorites, even though Brady is making postseason at his age, which is unbelievable. But I actually think you have to give Aaron Rodgers a few more points, percentage points towards the possibility of him being a quarterback here. Am I wrong in saying that?
So hey, listen, anything can happen, Brian. But the only reason I disagree is because I look at Josh McDaniels' system and familiarity with the system, and obviously the two other guys fit better, and then the cost. So I think Aaron Rodgers, from a cost perspective, is going to be the biggest, unless he's smoking the magic mushroom and he says, hey, I'm going to take a lot less money. Cool. Okay, then I see it as a different possibility. I think he could end up replacing Tom Brady in Tampa, or he could end up in San Francisco.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think one of those teams that has a little cap space for the quarterback position or thinks that they're just a quarterback. I mean, look how good the 49ers might win this year with Brock Purdy, which would be a Hollywood story.
Right.
But the fact is, I think that's the issue I see with Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people think he's washed. I do not. I think he's still a very good quarterback.
Yeah.
And it would be great to have the Raiders. I just think that the cost is going to be great.
And just remember, Aaron Rodgers was immunized, so that also could play a big role. We don't know what they put in that, but yeah, he was immunized, Chris.
And so, Brian and Scott, those of you watching the video feed, you saw me making the sweeping motion because that was my Detroit Lion fandom coming out the first time we swept Green Bay over the season in a long time. And to tie in what Scott was talking about congratulating my Lions, next year, the schedules come out, the Las Vegas Raiders will be playing the NFC North next year. And unfortunately for me, Gully and Brian, The Lions game is in Detroit. I want so much to finally get to see my Honolulu blue and silver
why don't you
here
fly
at
out
Allegiant
there,
Stadium.
man?
But now I'm gonna have to wait another 4 years because that's how kind of the schedule works, right, Gully? And Scott is how it's like every 4 years they rotate the divisions in the AFC and the NFC.
Scott,
so I gotta wait to see my Lions come here to Vegas.
Scott, there is.
You rather not see the. Yeah, you rather not see the Lions in beautiful Detroit? Come on.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
It's like going to Miami.
It's that once in a life. It's the first time I get to see my Detroit Lions in Vegas.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I know.
The same thing when the Detroit Red Wings came here to play the Vegas.
Yeah,
Golden
Scott.
Knights.
Yeah, it's like going to Miami, Scott.
Brian's bringing up. You know, there's airplanes out there. It's not a. Yeah, I can go to Detroit and watch the game. Gully, you know, you pick it up when I'm putting down, right? It's coming to Vegas. It's the Lions coming to Vegas, and of course, because of the schedule, they're going to be in Detroit.
Hey, Gully, Scott, Chris is getting red in the face. It's like me.
I'm Dan Campbelling it right now, Gully.
Yeah, it'd be
I'm
like
going Dan Campbell-esque.
It'd be like if I gave him a MAGA hat and a Donald Trump poster for his birthday, he'd get just as angry, maybe even more. Anyway, Gully, thank you so much for joining us, man. You're the best. I appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on again. We know there's going to be some interesting off-season decisions that Josh McDaniels and his staff are going to make, and we'd love to have you on again when that does happen. I always appreciate it every week when you come on, Scott. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gully.
I appreciate you guys. Always good spending time with you. Have a great week and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Gully. You too, for you and your family. That's Scott Gulbranson, one of the best in the business, does a great podcast, a great Raider insider, and I always appreciate him coming on. Hey, listen, Chris, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I am. I have to give your Detroit Lions a lot of credit. That was a game that, as they learned a half an hour before that they were completely out of the playoff picture, they played really hard. The Detroit defense gave Aaron Rodgers and that offense a lot of problems. And Detroit, even though they didn't make the playoffs, and I know a lot of fans are disappointed that they didn't, but they had a winning record in a very difficult league. The Detroit Lions have been very bad for a long time. This is a big turnaround season for them, and now the expectations have to be higher. You have to give the head coach and his staff a ton of credit for turning this thing around. Jared Goff has been a big part of it. I think we could all agree on that. But their defense is what's really impressed me all year.
Well, no. Their defense was terrible throughout the
second
first
half
games.
of the year. I'm
Second
talking
half
about
of
the
season.
second half of the year.
Second
It's
half of the
improved.
season. Yeah, no question. The defense has played a lot better.
Yeah.
Look, it's one of the good stories in the NFL this year, right, Brian? The
Well,
Detroit
for you,
Lions.
for you.
No question. No, the Lions are, as far as the NFL is concerned. A lot of people that aren't even Detroit Lions fans are talking about this team. Now, we get it. They were on, the TV show to begin the season, Hard Knocks.
Yep.
So they're exposed to a lot of people out there.
Yep.
But a lot of people like Dan Campbell. He's a very likable guy.
Yeah.
I talked about this all the time.
Maybe
He's a
not the
rah-rah
smartest guy in the world.
And you pointed out this game right at the end of the season. They weren't a playoff. They knew before the kickoff of that game they were not playing the playoffs. But you know what, Brian? There was still motivation. You know why?
Yep.
You're playing a division rival, one of the hated division
Let me
rivals.
put it this way.
Also, you're playing to be a team that's over 500. They're playing to be a 9-8 team this year. So that was a little bit of motivation as well too.
Yeah.
So there were reasons why Detroit came out and played well in that game and had motivation to win that game, despite the fact that they understood.
So you want to talk about opposite ends of the spectrum for two games in the playoff picture that did not mean anything, which is the Detroit Lions and the Las Vegas Raiders. You want to talk about two teams that came out completely differently. The Raiders, to me, and this is me, and all due respect to the players, but it did not look like they were even close to full effort. They didn't want to tackle. They didn't want to get physical in the game over the weekend. I look at the Detroit Lions, and it was the opposite for them. It looked like they were overly engaging, like they were playing for their playoff lives. And because of that performance, Aaron Rodgers will not be in the playoffs. Terrible loss for the Packers. I give the Lions accolades, but I look at two different teams. The Detroit Lions and a coaching staff that had them playing at 100%, 110% yesterday. It was a hell of a football game. They played in Lambeau Field, which we all know is one of the most difficult places to play in the NFL, and they won a tough football game. And then I look at the Raiders. They were never in this game. I felt like the Chiefs could have won by 8 touchdowns if they wanted to. If they wanted to, they could have won that game by 40 points. The Raiders' defense especially was just terrible. And I look at effort, right? And we didn't even mention this. You want to talk about effort. We only have a few more minutes.
Right.
What about the UNLV Runnin' Rebels? And once again, I give Kevin Kruger a ton of credit.
Impressive as all get out.
You start the season 0-2. The loss to San Jose State was terrible. But as bad as that loss to San Jose State is, you could say this win was just as good. You went into the pit. Nationally, a team that's a top 25 in the country. Now, do I think New Mexico is even the best team in the Mountain West? No. but they were still ranked top 25 in the country. I don't think New Mexico is better than San Diego State. I certainly don't think New Mexico is a top 25 team because they're not good defensively. I don't like their guard play. I love Mashburn, but their bigs aren't very good, and they're not very good defensively. They just lost to Fresno State. New Mexico is still a very difficult place to go in and win on the road.
How about that atmosphere, Brian, right?
Yeah,
They're
sold
in the
out.
pit in
Yeah.
Albuquerque.
Yeah. It's a great win.
We cover UNLV basketball. There's not an atmosphere like that at Thomas and Mack as
No.
of right now. Now it could get there, right? If they keep, if the Runner Rebels keep doing what they're doing, it could get there. But that atmosphere on Saturday was impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, to go
what
in,
the Lobo faithful were doing.
What I like about this win, and forget about how good New Mexico may not be, but what I like about this win, Chris, is you have guys like Gilbert and guys like Harkless. I don't even know if Harkless has ever even played there before. And you have guys that are in an environment which is sold out at the pit, and Harkless had a monster game. Gilbert made big shots. They were pretty good defensively. They had a great second half. And that's got to do wonders for your team because now you know you can beat anybody on the road. I think San Diego State is going to be a tough place to win on the road. Nevada is pretty good this year. Alfred's got them playing pretty well. That's a tough place to play on the road. But you know, this is a really nice win because you didn't want to start the season 0-3 in the conference. That would suck. And now you're on the winning train, and I believe you have Boise State Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. Boise State just beat San Jose State on the road by like 30. UNLV just lost to San Jose State. So Boise State is a good basketball team. Are they the best team in the conference? Probably not, but they're right in that mix of one of the top 3 teams, I think, in the league. I think San Diego State has to be number 1. Number 2 is kind of shady right now with the way New Mexico's been playing. They just lost to Fresno. They lost to UNLV, but they're still a top 5 team. Certainly Boise State is in that mix. There's no question about that. And let's not forget about Wyoming. Wyoming just lost by 1 to New Mexico. They're starting to get their players back. The Mountain West Conference is in a very good place right now. There's a lot of parity at the top, which I think is very good for the conference.
And Brian, with UNLV, if you're Kevin Kruger and your staff, got to be healthy. Look, you know what you're going to get out of Harkless. You know what you're going to get out of Rodriguez and to some extent, Gilbert. But they got key contributions from their supporting cast on Saturday, right? David Mwaka, solid game, double digits. And a guy that, myself and our friend of the show, Brian Feldman, we bag on him a lot because we expect more out of him.
Yeah.
But Jordan McCabe had a solid game as well, too, on Saturday, where he was in double digits. So if you're going to get guys kicking in from the supporting cast like that, it's a positive that Kevin and his staff got to love.
Chris, I appreciate you being here. A couple of quick things to mention before we go. I know this is, I hate to call it an anniversary of sorts. Celebrate the life, but I think it's 1 year, right? Brian Blessing, the passing of Brian Blessing. This is the Brian Blessing studio. Yes. Brian was a great guy, and thoughts and prayers certainly to his family and friends. He was certainly always nice to me, and he's sorely missed. Our good friend, Brian Feldman, hopefully getting out of the hospital today. He's been sick. My dad was in the hospital.
My mother broke her arm over the weekend as well, too. There's been a lot of medical situations.
That must have been a Detroit Lions celebration.
Everybody get well soon,
Yes,
Brian.
yes.
My mother, your father,
Yep.
and of course, and of course, Brian Feldman. I mean, it's tough. And yes, Brian Blessing, rest in peace, my friend. One of my favorites here in Las Vegas.
Michelle
when it comes to
Mortensen,
radio
absolutely.
personalities.
We got Michelle Mortensen coming in studio tomorrow. We also have a very special running rebel that is going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. I'm going to keep it a secret for right now. But trust me, you'll know who he is when he comes in studio tomorrow. It's going to be very exciting. Thank you for being here, Chris. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you to Mark Hayes for all the help. Always appreciated. And for all the comments on social media and all the calls. We appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.